Welcome back everyone to Scavenging with Pineleaf, a series of tales, travels, and trifles. And today we'll be doing some travels to various bodies of water in Middle-earth. And today we'll be starting with Nenharn, which is that lake in the northeast section of Breeland, north of the Chetwood. And the memories I have of this place are mainly related to a quest related to turtles, where you're supposed to get some turtle soup for some hobbit. And there's some quest givers over here near the southern end of the lake that also give you some additional quests on the matter to get some turtle shells and the like. So I believe that originally there were only two quests here, the one from the Hobbit, and I think somebody else wanted the shells. But they moved the shell quest giver over here and added another quest giver who had another couple of quests, so that you have more of a reason to come here. Though this is still not exactly one of the most common places for people to come to. And it's also a very common place to go around and see where we can come here. It's not a common place to come in quest or anything like that. So a lot of people forget the name of it. I was watching one person who was doing this particular series and asked him, okay, Nenharn next. I go, where's Nenharn? Yeah, it's a very easy place to forget within the travels through Middle-earth. But yes, the place exists, and it's in Breeland, so it's in a relatively low-level area. In fact, there's the first of our turtles here, right around level 19. So it's very, very late in your trip to Breeland, and some people are just really anxious to get out and are killing orcs and stuff like that, so therefore they're not worried about going on side quests for turtles. And up here there is a bit of a troll. You're getting up here into the Chetwood now, which is what that is, and there you'll be starting out with this quest where you'll run into a troll. It's a signature these days, but I think it used to be in an elite. So you had to go and find this troll and survive, because you used to need a group in order to do it. So you're much more likely to be able to solo it these days. And oh, here's the final remembrance. I think the troll is up there somewhere. Can we find that troll? Well, maybe not. It's been a while and I don't have a quest arrow telling me where it's at. And of course, if you go north here, you eventually get into the Lone Lands down near the Weathertop area. This is the country where if you take Ceridan's horse to Candate's camp, where you would just travel through there and eventually get over there. But you have to be careful, because there is a group of high-level mobs during that trip that I've never figured out why they've got a bunch of level 45 sitting all throughout the area. But I think it's time for us to head to the next body of water, which is Lake Evendim. Here we are along the shore of Evendim, and I guess it's an appropriate place to be during the evening. And it also has the name, or nickname I should say, of Everswim, due to the tendency to having to get across the lake. And while the boat keeper here makes things a little bit easier these days, we did not originally have the boat keeper. And I hear that the people who are not VIP still have to get across the lake the hard way, so therefore for some people it is still Everswim. And of course there are other locations along the lake where you also have to do a great deal of swimming. So yes, Lake Evendim. one of the common places that you have to go to in the game, because Evendim is a favorite locale to quest, and I'm certainly sure that that's not because of the lake. Now, Lake Evendim does pop up in a couple of interesting places in the matter of the game. First off, it is the first area to be added since the original release of the game, and that was in one of the very early updates. They finally got around to it, probably update 9 or 10, where they added it. And you had your place in order to be given to, and you have Evendim here, and then later on Anuminous down there. Let's see, are there any more remembrances up here? Or I think the rest of the remembrances are going to be on the other side of the river. So let me head over that way. This is a section where I don't come all that often. This is on the other side. Well, right now I guess we're along the lake technically, but down there we have the river ending and dumping out into the lake. So you don't come around here too often because you're very rarely, because you spend a lot of time on the island, of course. But down in this section, I don't think you really come out to do too much questing. If you're going to be doing questing, you're more likely to be on the other side of the lake, or down at Rantos down there, or down where the Ent is way down there. I think that might be the last of those here. And speaking of where the Ent is located, I believe the next remembrance is over there. Yes, here we are at the Eve Spires, and yep, last remembrance is over here. Now, one other memory I have relates to the Icy Crevasse, where at the end the boss tells you that their evil plan is to send the coals of Forgel over to Evendim to freeze the lake over. And I have a feeling there are one or two players who listen to that text and says, "Really? And why is that bad?" Well, I could think of a number of reasons why it's bad, but it may make it easier to cross the lake, that's for sure. But speaking of Forgel, I think it's time to head over to the Icy Bay. Forgel was the second location to be added to the game after Evendim. And of course, it's notorious for the frigid waters. And if you go into the waters, you can die of hypothermia, which, considering the temperature that you must have around here, is certainly quite plausible. And in fact, I would think that it would have been plausible for them to have rules about having to wear a certain amount of clothing or something like that, though I suppose that would be stretching things a little bit too much on the realism department in a video game, because it certainly wanted to avoid micromanaging down to that level. Oh, that's right, we've got about 3 of them here in the village here, and I believe the rest of them are down south of the village. So let me head back down that way. Ah, here's one right here, right next to the bridge. And right next to that mammoth over there. Those mammoths can be nasty if you need to fight them or anything like that, but they are certainly nothing compared to the Mumak that you meet down in Gondor during the war, even though of course the Mumak aren't native to Gondor. Now I doubt that Tolkien said anything about mammoths. I can't remember if he did or anything like that, though it's very easy to extrapolate and say that they're around, because if you've got elephants down in the south, and this is supposedly back way in the distant time, then yeah, there should be mammoths around. This is a reasonable thing to have. And here's our last remembrance. So therefore, that takes care of our little trip into the cold waste. So let's then head into the Trollshalls, where we are going to cross a ford. And here is the Ford of Bruinen. And there are many memories here, of course. The first being that this is the location of one of the iconic scenes in the books, and of course also in any of the adaptations, because it's such an iconic scene. It's one that is always played out in any adaptation of the story. This is where Frodo attempts to cross into the lands leading to Elrond's house, and of course the Black Riders are also there trying to keep Frodo from crossing. And there we go. And if you've done the epic storyline, you will know that this is where the Black Riders get swept down, so that they are forced away from the area for a while, and you don't run into them again until you get down to the Great River, where they've had time to recover and get new mounts and all. And that is the Ford of Bruinen. And of course, oh yes, there is also a skirmish here, which ends with that dramatic scene at the end. I mean the dramatic scene where you've got the waves coming down crashing against the troll. I don't mean the dramatic scene where the twins go wild, attack something, and get themselves killed, as usual. But that's the Ford of Bruinen. Now let's head down into Moria to the waterworks. Next we have the Drowned Deep over here, down in the waters in the waterworks. And this place I don't have too much memories of. Yes, I have a great number of memories concerning the waterworks. They tend to be on the other sides of it, other places throughout it. In the spider area, over where the Globsnaga are, the various locations you go for the epic storyline. And there's a place up there, a platform where you get lights in order to repair them by killing spiders and all. Oh. But this area here is near the Vile Mall, where you run into the Watcher. And I've never really did the Watcher raids. Yeah, I tried it 1 or 2 times, but let us just say without the greatest success in the world. So therefore, I don't come here all that often. As such, I think it is time for us to head down into a place that I am, unfortunately, a little bit more familiar, and that is the Foundations of Stone. The first word that comes to mind when I think of the Foundations of Stone, and of course this little lake down at the bottom of it, is creepy. This place is really creepy, and you have all these monsters going around it, of course, which gives you real pain in order to get around. And one of the first things I was thinking of when I seeing the green water here was thinking that it's one of those places such as Angmar, where all the water is instant death or something like that. But it's perfectly safe to swim here, though it could turn into a bit of an ever swim if you're not careful, because there aren't many locations where you can speed yourself up by going through the land, but they make sure that for this particular quest you get the full feel of the place by putting some of the remembrances all throughout the little corners here where you can walk. So you come down here on a couple of occasions. The main one, of course, being in the epic storyline, where you are attempting to search for the fate of Gandalf. And you also have to come down here in order to get some orders related to the Globsnaga and all that stuff. Speaking of the Globsnaga, I wonder if that's related to why the water is green over here. Because if it is, then it's not a place where you really want to be swimming. Because swimming in a place infested with Globsnaga, you'll think that, oh my goodness gracious, the fungus is going to take over you and you're going to have a Globsnaga hobbit around here. And over there we have, I believe that is a shard of the bridge of Khazad-dûm. That's right. And this is the island where you find Gandalf's hat. Over here, right, there's the... Is that a hat or is that a toad? That's a toad. Oh, no, that's the hat. I can't tell the difference between a hat and a toad. Yeah. Well, I suppose that's par for the course. So let's head over to the shores of the Mirror. Here we are at the Mirror, which reflects the stars. Now I know it's night, so that doesn't sound too unusual, but it also reflects the stars in the daytime. So therefore it's a very unusual lake in that property. And that is why the dwarves chose this location in which to found their home. Or I should say, Durin decided that, since it is Durin's folk that founded the place here. There are other groups of dwarves, such as the Dourhans, which live in other locations. And you come around here in order to help clear out the area of the orcs that have settled here, because the orcs have come out from underground. They're trying to look for the company in the ring after all that mess they created back at the bridge of Khazad-dûm, which resulted in things like bridge shards being at the bottom of the foundations of stone. That's 4 of them. I think there are a couple more up in this way. So of course you have to go into these orc camps and try to burn their totems. Find, oh yeah, I withdraw here without Durin Stone over here, which is probably the location where Durin woke up and first looked up or looked into the Mirror and decided to make that his home. So therefore that's a very major location for the history of the dwarves. But that is the Mirror. So next we have Nen Hithel. Here we are at the Nen Hithel near the Falls of Rauros. No, those aren't the Falls of Rauros. That's a small waterfall leading into the lake from the nearby river. The Falls of Rauros go down from there, down that way. It's a really big waterfall that would be a lot more spectacular if viewed from the other side. And of course, this is the location of the breaking of the fellowship, so it is a very important part to the storyline. And over there you have a camp of a rather dysfunctional, shall we say, fellowship. Sort of bring back memories to the one that we had in Warhel. I know we didn't run into them while we were down by the frozen waters, but the two groups do have a habit of showing some of the things that you could have go wrong when your fellowship goes through countries that they don't know. But yes, this is a rather large lake, ending with the Argonaut up there, which I think would be much better looking if we were seeing this in the daylight. And I'll grab one more remembrance, and then we could meet over in Isingmere. We are back to frigid waters, this time Wildermore, where the cold temperatures have to do with some sort of evil plot rather than the natural climate of the area. And we come down here after doing the first part of Rohan. This was done between the time they released East Rohan and Western Rohan. So of course this is a place that can often be skipped unless you're doing the epic storyline. And there is a small point in the epic storyline that does take you by this lake, but for the most part I really don't do too much in this area. You do have a quest, I believe, relating to all of these grims that you see all over the place, but that's just about it. Now there is a quest that relates to, I believe, that island right there, I think is, where there is a tomb in there, where I went on a couple of occasions. But yes, in Wildermore, I usually don't think about the waterways. But it is a sizable lake, so that is something to keep in mind there. But that is Wildermore and Lake Isingmere. So all that leaves is just one more, and that is Lake Gilrain, which thankfully is a lot warmer than this one. Here we are at Lake Gilrain, which is of course at the northern edge of the river of the same name, where we meet Roaming Star. It's also a place where we meet a few corsairs here and there. And this is the only place we're visiting today which actually has mobs that are within our level range, where they're going to attack us if we're not careful. So therefore I did a little preemptive strike there so that I could gather up these memories. And of course Roaming Star is concerned about the corsairs and all that who have been making trouble down along her river and her lake. And that concludes our episode. We have visited all of our waterways all throughout here. 10 waterways in our travels for today. So next time we are going to do a few of the trifles, but a bird! Really? The next time we will do some trifles, one or two little remembrances of the past instances. How many of them will depend, of course, on how much time each of those take. But that will be next time. So until then, this is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.